Hey there, welcome to Board Game Hot Takes. My name's Tim.
This is Chris.
This is Adam.
And today we're going to be revisiting 2023. We're going to take a look back at the games we played last year, and we've got some awards to give out, some of our favorite games of last year. If you're a regular listener of the show, you know that we love older games as well as new games. So, although we do have a couple of awards that are focused on games published in 2023, we're also going to be highlighting some great games that we got played for the first time in 2023. So you're gonna get a mix here. It'll be a little bit of new stuff, a little bit of older stuff. Before we jump right into the awards, do you guys have any thoughts? Anything you want to share with the listeners here?
This was a great year for games. Like, as we're going through the list, a lot of the categories, even the ones that don't specifically require that the game be from this year, I found myself still picking games from this year. I mean, that's great. I mean, what a big year it was. It was a lot of fun. So many great games got released, and I'm dying to talk about them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. This year had so many good games. 2023 did, and I was in the same boat. Like when I was looking at, biggest surprises, biggest disappointments of last year, I ended up mostly talking about 2023 games, even though we don't, limit the category to that. So fantastic year for games. I got most of the games that I really was excited about played last year. And wow, what a great group. Probably one of the better years since I've been in board gaming. One of the better years for hobby games, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Usually I have a lot of trouble making these lists. This time it was trouble narrowing it down to which one or two, like Chris was saying before the show, it was a little bit of trouble narrowing it down to which one he wants to pick. So fun time making the list. It was cool looking back on all the games from 2023.
All right, well, let's just get right into it. So our first award we're going to talk about is our biggest board game surprise in 2023. And again, this is not limited to games published in 2023, but biggest surprise that we played this year.
And this is the one category, I think, where I actually ended up with a game that was not from 2023. My biggest surprise of the year was Yokohama, designed by Hisashi Hayashi and published by Tasty Minstrel Games. This one was the biggest surprise for me because I did not expect in any way that I was going to enjoy this game as much as I did. I remember when you guys did the episode on this one, which I was not involved in. I was actually traveling in Ireland, and I remember sitting in Ireland in an old mill, sitting in my bedroom, listening to the awesome episode that you guys did talking about Yokohama. And I remember thinking, what a great episode, and what a game that does not sound like it would be any fun for me. And then we ended up playing it at SedonaCon, and I was absolutely charmed by it. Now, in fairness to my initial reaction, a part of that is because I hadn't started opening my mind up to the quote unquote dry Euro as much as I have now. And now I'm sort of realizing that, my taste has sort of changed a little bit. I'm a little bit more open-minded. But I looked at the pictures of this, and this massive cards or board spaces with actions and, busy and crazy. And it did not look like the kind of thing that would be fun for me. But then we played it at SedonaCon, and I had an absolute blast. I enjoyed the mechanics. I enjoyed the artwork that was cute and colorful and just adorable in a way that often these dry Euro city style games just tend not to be. And I really loved that. Overall, made for a really good experience. I've played this a bunch of times now on BGA in addition to our live plays. And it's one of those ones that I've just recently been thinking, I got to get back on that again. So I'll be looking for another game of that probably on BGA here very soon.
Chris picking Yokohama for an award was not on my 2023 bingo card at all. But also, Chris, I think you should have learned by now you need to not skip review episodes, because I looked back at last year's biggest surprise for you, and it was Agricola. And that was after you'd missed our episode recording on it and then eventually got to playing it with us as well. So I feel like you better not miss any more episodes this year.
I'll try.
Yeah, that was a surprise. Chris coming out enjoying Yokohama. Great pick, Chris. That's a fun game.
Yep. All right. My biggest surprise in 2023 is a game that shouldn't be a surprise, but it really was. In fact, when we were about to do the review on it, I texted these guys and said, guys, maybe we should just skip this one. I don't think it's going to do anything unique. And that was Age of Innovation. Age of Innovation is kind of a reimplementation of Terra Mystica, which was already reimplemented by Gaia Project. As it turns out, Gaia Project was my number 2 favorite game of all time when we did our top 40 list last year. So clearly I loved it. And when I read the rules for this, I said, this isn't doing enough different. Why would I, play this game with a fantasy setting when I could be playing Gaia Project? And then I played it and I loved it. And I got to play it 3 times. The one we did for the review, but also a couple times in person. And somehow the game's just better to me, even than Gaia Project, one of my favorite games of all time. So it really surprised me. It really took my breath away by how much fun I had playing this. I think the extra variability mechanisms they put in there and just more stuff you can kind of pick up. Each game is going to play differently. I really liked Age of Innovation. But I had a whole bunch of games that I wanted to put on this award this year. There's so many games that just surprised me that took my breath away. So I'm going to run through those really quickly. Number one, Frosthaven. I had backed this on Kickstarter, I think back in 2019, maybe early 2020. By the time it was coming, I really wasn't that excited about it. I figured I'd open the box, punch it out, play a scenario or two, and then move it on, sell it. And I've had a blast playing this. Luckily, I had a chance to start a campaign with a friend who's also digging it. And we probably put 60, 70 hours into it at this point. We're probably 20% through the campaign.
Wow.
And every time you start learning one of these new characters, you retire one and open a new one, it plays totally different. And the scenarios have lots of crazy things that change scenario to scenario. There's some fun story in there. Really fun game. It is clunky as heck. It is tons of rules overhead, constantly checking the rule book and constantly forgetting rules. And there's all these things that I normally don't like about games that I expected to find in this, but all the fun I've had with it has overruled all that. The next one was Cyclades Legendary Edition. Cyclades is the third in the Madigo trilogy of Troops on a Map games, which included Inish and Kemet, both games which I enjoy a decent amount. But I just didn't think Cyclades was going to stand out from the pack on those, and I was so wrong. This is one of my favorite Troops on a Map area control style games that I've ever played, and I cannot wait to get this when it finally releases the Legendary Edition, the new reprint of it. Hegemony surprised the heck out of me. Big asymmetric game, lots of rules overhead. And the one thing I didn't expect from it was that it would actually be fun. And I had so much fun playing this, even though it took us many, many hours to play. Vagrantsong, which is a co-op boss battler game where you're kind of moving through a train, battling spirits, tactical combat. What? Co-op? What? Who wants to play that type of thing? I had a blast with this game. I've been thinking about it a lot. I might pick it up. And then my last surprise that I played this year was not a new game. This is Tichu. Talked about it a couple weeks ago on the show, and I've had a chance to play a couple more games of this with friends. Probably one of my favorite kind of classic just card game style games that I've ever played. I'm having such a fun time with this. If you can get a couple pairs together at a place, you got to check it out. So lots of games that really surprised me this year, but Age of Innovation was number one and is probably going to be in my top 10 when we do that this year.
Well, Tim, taking advantage of the rules big time already, right off the bat, picking 17 games on his first category. So I have a response to a couple of those. Age of Innovation. I'm not going to say too much about that because I'm going to say a little bit about it here in a little bit. And then Frosthaven, I felt the same way, Tim. I was not excited about it by the time it got here, and I'm still not excited about it. It's just sitting over in the corner unopened. Somebody please buy that off me. Chris, you want to respond to any of Tim's gibberish before I go on with my biggest surprise?
I can't even remember what he said at the beginning of that list. It was so long. Although I feel bad now because I had runner-ups too, and I didn't runners-up. Was it runner-up, runner-ups, runners-up? Anyway, I had them, and I didn't say them, so I feel like I'll go back at the end when you're done, and I will give my runner-up. So other than that, I have no response. Nothing to say.
Got to give us some notice, Tim, if you're going to throw in all these runners-up. My biggest surprise, which probably isn't a surprise to anybody who's listening to the show, is Fractal Beyond the Void. This is a game. This is a game that kickstarted. It came out about the same time as Voidfall, so we played them both, and I was kind of on the fence about which ones I was going to back or not. I ended up backing them both, and I had a blast playing Fractal. Once it got here, I opened it up. Beautiful production, beautiful box. It takes a lot. I think it does take a lot from Eclipse and refines that system. It's a different game than Eclipse, but a lot of the same elements. You got combat at the end of the round. You have some sort of goals to go for rather than just points, which I think is a neat way of doing things, which end up being points. But the way it does the scoring is pretty nifty. And then the combat has a nice little tactical these tactics decks, the tactics cards, 8 tactics cards that you can upgrade or improve. So I think that's a neat system. And just the way the game plays, not to mention, I haven't even touched the campaign and checked out all these elements on the level 2 of the box. The lower section of the box has all this stuff I haven't even looked at. So having a lot of fun with Fractal Beyond the Void. Some of my other surprises, some of my runners up. for this year, Turing Machine, which we did a review episode on recently. Apiary, I had a lot of fun playing Apiary. I'm going to talk more about that one later. Heat, Pedal to the Metal, mostly as a function of it being on Board Game Arena, and Chris really enjoying this one. So Chris, you and I have gone on with this one a bunch and just found all these little nuances. Lately, you're just owning me in this game, but I'm still having fun playing it tons. And then Star Wars, the deck building game. I thought this was just going to be another deck builder. Yeah, there's a Empire and then the Rebellion, but the new thing you can do here is attack cards in the market row. So that's pretty fun. So those were my runners up for biggest surprises, all behind Fractal Beyond the Void.
Nice. I'm actually surprised that you ended up liking Fractal more than Voidfall, considering how we felt about it around the time that we did the review. But given how much you've said about it since and how much you've enjoyed it, it doesn't surprise me at all. I am glad that you picked Heat. Heat is actually one of the ones that I didn't quite make my runner-up list, but it is a great choice. This is actually one that has grown on me considerably since we did our review episode of it, and I love it. And in particular, I like it because it's one of the few games I can actually beat you at, so that feels great.
I've had a chance to play Heat a couple times since we reviewed it, and it hasn't grown on me at all. My feelings are exactly the same about it. It's not bad a game. It never was. Fractal is interesting. The biggest surprise that Adam even owns it, because after we did those reviews and he first said he was going to back both of them, then he backed out of Fractal and he ended up rebacking it and then got both and seems to really like Fractal. And every text about Voidfall he sent to us was frustrated. So when he sold it, I think, right?
I did.
I'm just going to throw out one runner-up. And the reason for that, I mean, I told you guys before we started the show, and I'll say it for the listeners here, that there were a few of these categories where I had two that were so close to each other that I wasn't even sure which one to do. And so I put them both on my list, and then I said, at showtime, I'm going to make a call at the last possible second, and whatever one makes me feel passionate at that moment, I'm going to say. And for this category, it was Yokohama, but the runner-up, the close runner-up, the almost tied runner-up was Motor City. That one surprised me because I did not expect much. I mean, I'm not a big roll and write person, but I do appreciate the fun of writing, things down on the paper and how enjoyable that can be. But the ones I'm used to playing are, pretty light. They're pretty slight games. And Motor City is a nice, chunky game with all the fun vibes of a roll and write. And it has a cool theme, too. I love that. I think it's an enjoyable game. We played this at PortlandCon. Tim and I played it at the very end of the weekend. And I think we played 2 games in a row because I liked it so much the first time. I'm like, we just need to play that again right now. And I've played it with my wife since. She enjoys it. Such a fun game. Glad to have backed that one on Kickstarter.
All right. Well, our next category today is biggest disappointment in 2023. And to be honest, I'm not even sure I want to keep doing this award, but it's on our list for this year. I really don't like picking on games, right? I don't want to highlight games that were bad. But to be honest, we played a lot of bad games this year, and that's not what this category is. Or I would say I played a lot of games that were mediocre or not, not super fun for me. But this category is more just about kind of reflecting on the things that we were really excited about and that kind of let us down. So this isn't even necessarily a bad game, at least the game I picked, I don't think is. But it's just something I had higher hopes for, and it just didn't meet my hopes. How about you guys? Did you kind of look at this award the same way?
I would have looked at it that way, except there was such a clear winner, or I guess loser for this category that, well, I'll get to that.
Yeah, it was a stretch. I have a couple picks here. One is the one that Chris is going to pick, and the other one is one we've already mentioned tonight, but that's not to say it's a bad game. It's disappointing for other reasons. And then I have a subcategory for this one, most average games of 2023, that I decided to list a couple games for that too.
It sounds like Anne was very excited to ding a bunch of games tonight, so maybe we'll have to keep this one in.
Well, I'm with you, Tim. I actually don't like this category either, but this year it wasn't hard. I think Adam's already kind of got a good guess about what I'm going to say. You probably do too. But my number one most disappointing game of 2023 was probably the most disappointing game ever, sadly. And it was Lords of Ragnarok, designed by Adam Kopinski and published by Awaken Realms. Man, I don't like to yuck anybody's yum, but this is the closest thing I've played to a game that was unplayable. And in fact, I think it is probably the only game that we've ever started as a group and then stopped halfway through and said, we just can't continue this. And what's particularly disappointing about it is that this one is the follow-on to Lords of Hellas, which was a good game. It wasn't my favorite game, but it was good. And I liked the production. I liked the concept. I liked the theme behind it. And so when Lords of Ragnarok came out and they called it the spiritual successor, they perfected all the things that were problematic in Lords of Hellas, was how it was kind of marketed, made a better game out of it. I was super excited. I opened the box on this thing and it was like the angels, shone down from heaven. And I looked at this beautiful production and I was so excited to play this game. And then it just ended up being such a disappointing experience. Like I said, I think this is the only game we've ever played where we started and then never finished. So I'm sure that there's somebody out there who's who likes this game and it's got a constituency, but it just ain't me.
Well, that doesn't even qualify for a disappointing game. That's just a bad game for me, but I was not, I didn't have very high expectations for it. So the game that I was really disappointed again this year, it's not even a bad game. I think a lot of people are probably going to enjoy this, but I had pretty high expectations for it. And partly maybe because it had a predecessor that I really love. And this is Expeditions. This was published by Stonemaier Games and designed by Jamie Stegmaier. I really wanted to like this game. And in fact, there's some things about it that I really do like. I'm going to mention it in one of our positive categories coming up here in a second. But the gameplay of the game just left me feeling soulless every single time I played it. I didn't find fun in it, even though I can see the mechanisms are offering you interesting decisions, I guess. But I didn't find fun in it. I didn't find joy in playing Expeditions, and that really disappointed me. And I tried it 5 or 6 times, I think. So I think I gave it a pretty fair shake. And it let me down a little bit. That doesn't mean you should stay away from it. And I don't think it was even because I expected it to be like Scythe. I didn't. But it was really even from the minute that I read the rule book, I wasn't even sure if I should buy it. I did go ahead and buy it, but I kind of knew in advance that it wasn't going to be a good fit for me. But by the time I got it, played it, everything about what I was psyched up for with a Scythe sequel just didn't really feel anything like the joy I got out of playing Scythe.
Yeah, some good picks, you guys. Lords of Ragnarok, up until Chris finished giving us the rules spiel. We had that giant map laid out in front of us, all these components looking amazing. I'm examining, I think I'm going to go here. I want to do this. I want to do this. And then it goes into whoever it was first turn. I don't know if it was me or Steve, and there's, I don't know how many steps, 25, 30 steps. You're going through line by line and trying to do this and do this. And so to get through one turn was just, it felt like a chore. This is the anti-flow game. There's zero flow in this game whatsoever. And it looked like it was going to be so cool. You have these enemies at the top of the board and you have to wear them down and take them out. And you can do these, I don't know the way you could decide to attack or build up your guy or go for these little temples or whatever it was and build up those. So it looked like it had so much cool stuff going on, but just the execution was painful. So that was easily my biggest disappointment. I was very much looking forward to that one. And then my other disappointment, Tim mentioned it. I've already sold this game and it's getting a lot of praise from a lot of people. And I think it is probably an outstanding game, but Voidfall for me was a big disappointment. I opened it up. I got through the setup. So the setup was just a lot in itself, but it was joyful. I had fun doing it because it was so beautiful. I took out all of these giant hexes. I was taking pictures. Look at these, they're the size of my face. These guys, look at these hexes. And then you've got all these thousands of ships and all these thousands of orange things. You have orange exploding blobs and orange walls and orange weird guy heads. And then ships that have a little bit of orange coming out of them too. So there's, maybe you're getting the picture here. There is a lot of stuff in this box, and I don't think I touched 80% of it. You don't need 80% of it for the first scenario. I set up a 3-handed scenario to run through it, and as I started running through the tutorial, I was like, well, what do I do? I just want to play a card. How do I take a turn? And that was a very difficult process to do. So that was frustrating in itself. So this I'm going to get to in the revelations and stuff, just the ideals about board games, but let me get to the game. Let me play the thing. I don't mind doing a huge setup and this and that, but when do I get to play the game? When's that going to happen? That's what I want to do here. I don't waste my time with all of this fluff. If you're going to have all this fluff and setup make it worth my while. So that's why Voidfall is one of my biggest disappointments. I know that we're gonna play this game and I'm gonna have tons of fun playing it once somebody can hold my hand and walk me through this, because the choices are going to be there. The decisions are there. The game is cool. It's super cool, but all of the stuff just wore me down pretty quickly. So that's why Voidfall is right behind Lords of Ragnarok for my biggest disappointments.
I can see that, Adam. And I'll be honest with you. I think that this is the most unapproachable game that I actually enjoy. Most of the time, everything that you're talking about would have just made me so upset, and it didn't in this case. And I think it's worth it. I wouldn't say it's worth it. I don't think anyone should have to go through what I had to go through to get this game to the table and get it played. But when we can get it together and I can set it up and I can teach it to you guys, I think you will find that it's worth that at least. But yeah, you're right. This is a game that is just too unapproachable to be approachable. A lot of people are not going to ever get this played, regardless of how beautiful it was or how many people backed it on Kickstarter, because it literally took me like 2 full days to get through the rule book and understand how to get this played.
Yeah, I got this one, and I think it took me pretty nearly a full weekend worth of at least the amount of time I was willing to spend each day over the course of a weekend, getting this game punched and set up and the cards all sorted and put the little packets together for each of the houses and all that kind of thing. It was such a beatdown just getting that done that I have since then not once had the inclination to pull it out and touch this game again, which isn't to say I'm not going to enjoy it. I remember enjoying it when we played it for the review episode, and I'm like Adam, I'm sure I'm going to have a good time when we all play it together, but my goodness, it is not one that I sit around thinking about playing, sadly.
Yeah, the good news, Chris, is that hopefully when we do play it together, it will be easier for you to get into. And if you want to go back to it, you should be able to teach it to somebody else, I think, pretty straightforward after we've played it, in a fairly short amount of time. So let me deal with the pain and bring it to you guys. And
thanks, Tim.
Thanks for taking one for the team, Tim.
You got it. All right, cool. Well, this next category is literally intended to talk about games that were not published in 2023. This game is best new to us game in 2023. So these are going to be older games, most likely, that this was the first time we got to play them. So really highlighting older games that are new to us.
And for me, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to pick a game that was from this year because it truly was the best new to me game. If I had a runner up on this, it might have actually been Yokohama, which was one that I had already talked about. So I'm not going to say it here. But the one I actually did pick for this category was Distilled by Dave Beck and published by Paverson Games. What a fun game this is. And it was published this year. And I'm so excited that this game actually turned out to be as good as I was hoping it was going to be. This is one that I backed on Kickstarter. And with Kickstarters, you're always rolling the dice a little bit. This game delivered in a huge way. I love the theme, distilling spirits. I like the characters and the cards and the fun of building up your factory, your distillery, buying all of your fancy ingredients, getting all the fancy bottles. And then, doing the distilling process where you pull off the heads and tails of your batch and hope that it's not the card you really needed, that little bit of push your luck aspect of it. And just how much fun that is. I love this game. I'm actually excited. I recently got the expansions sent to me by Paverson Games, and I'm dying to try those. This is also one that I've played with my family, and my family enjoys it. And so it's a game that I can actually get played. So this is one that I think is going to be a favorite for a very, very long time. And I am thrilled to list that one as my best new to me game of 2023.
Glad to hear you got your son learning to distill spirits at 12 years old, Chris. That's great. I'm glad you mentioned Distilled, actually, because I wanted it to be on my list here, but I had so many runners up already. I couldn't quite find a category for it. Great game. It did surprise me. I think that's where I was going to put it. But I'm curious how you managed to then distinguish between best published game of 2023 and best new to you game in 2023. I guess we'll find out when we get to that next category.
That was actually a challenge, and I'll explain it when we get there. But yeah, that was a tough one.
All right. Sounds good. So the best new to me game for 2023 was the Battle for Rokugan, game we've talked about several times. One play of it when we met up in Portland this last year. Still want to own this game. Still have wonderful memories of playing this game and the exciting moments that came up and the fun, quick little decisions. And it's just, the combination of just it being a fun game, but also just a straightforward, simple game to get into. And I really appreciate that these days when you've got games like Voidfall and Hegemony, and Nucleum and Arc Nova. And then you get this game that you can teach somebody in 5-10 minutes max and then get in and start having a fun time with it. You got to appreciate that. This is a hidden gem. Wish it wasn't out of print, but I am still planning to pick up a copy soon.
First of all, Chris, Distilled, as with Tim, I was looking for somewhere to put this in one of my categories. It couldn't quite fit it in. I had a lot of fun playing this game, and I'm glad you picked it because that's tons of fun. And then best new to me game this year, also Battle for Rokugan. So much fun playing this one. I'm glad it was a hit. I had this game sitting on my shelf for, 4 years, and bought it when it was in print and cost $35-40. This game was cheap. It's skinny. It's just a lot of chits. I would open it up and look at the beautiful watercolor, kind of washed out watercolor look. And then I took all the chits and colored in the sides so those would pop a little bit more as they were out on the board. But such a fun game. Also have like a casino kind of feel, casino game kind of feel, where you're putting out these chips and then they're all upside down and then everybody's done that, and then at the end you flip them all over and it's a big reveal, and oh my gosh, nope, this one's illegal, take that one off, this one doesn't apply anymore, and you kind of resolve everything and you have these surprises every time. What a fun game. I can't wait to play this one again. Battle for Rokugan. You're right, Tim. Light rules overhead, easy to get it going. Anybody can walk up and play this game within 5-10 minutes. They'll understand what's going on. What a great game.
I'm going to fully back you guys on that one. Great game. If I had more space on my list, I would have added it there too. It was so much fun. Can't wait to play it again.
Couple runners up for me on this category. Cat in a Box. I had a lot of fun playing that. Downforce. I'm still enjoying that one a lot. It's also on Board Game Arena, and I'm having lots of fun playing that. And then Revive, which is technically a 2022 game. So I don't know. It fell in the weird zone between our list last year and this year, I think.
Because it was published in Europe in 2022, but I don't think it was available in the US until 2023. So it's really kind of a 2023 release for North America.
Right. So I don't know how we're doing, but Revive, I had tons of fun playing that one the one time. I can't wait to play that one more. And then Mosaic as well. I think it fell in that weird zone. I don't know if we threw it on our list last year, but I think we didn't get it played until this year, even though that was a 2022 game. It was another great new to me games.
Cool. Well, our next category is about production. And this year I tried to make it easy for you guys because I confused you all last year by saying it was best component in 2023. But this year we're just going to go easy and say best production published in 2023.
So this one was a very easy one for me. It's Steam Up, A Feast of Dim Sum, designed by Pauline Kong, Heyman Lee, and Marie Wong, and published by Hot Banana Games. This is a hoot. The game is cool, but the production is absolutely amazing. You get these little bamboo steamers that you fill with these little pieces of dim sum. And now I'm talking about the deluxe version, by the way. There is a non-deluxe version, the standard version, which comes with cardboard chits, which are still delightful looking. But the one I have has the little plastic pieces that are actually shaped like dim sum, like the chicken feet and the dumplings and all that. And this one looks so fun just to have on the table. You've got the steamers that stack on top of each other. You've got the little lazy Susan that goes around and you turn so that you can get into your feast zone and get the right dim sum that you're looking for. And then you each have an individual player card, which is your persona in the game. And they're all based on the Chinese zodiac. And each of the characters is funny and cute. Like I think I mentioned in a previous time that I talked about this game, there's a little pig sitting there on his cell phone called the Food Blogger, and he wants a certain kind of food. And then there's another, there's a tiger who's the fisherman, and he wants fish, so he might want a certain kind of food. And each player is trying to get the right stuff to score the right points and to get the things that they need to satisfy their persona in the game. Such a great game to look at. Now, the sad part of this is that it's a very light game, and I couldn't get my family interested in this one. It's a very fun game, I thought, but just not a right fit for my family. So it didn't take off as a game, But one of the things that I had talked about previously was how I appreciate this is as a game where somebody from a culture that's not mine is sharing with me something from their culture. And one thing that did happen when we played this, my son got fascinated by the idea of dim sum. He's like, this looks so cool. Can we try that? So we found a place here in Portland to get good dim sum. And now, even though we don't play the game, at least once a week, I get the question, can we go get dim sum for dinner? And
Nice.
so the game was fun, but the experience and the lasting change of diet, I suppose, was even better.
That's cool. That's a great reason to play a game, to get introduced to some new cuisine. All right. Well, the game that I think has the best production by far that was published in 2023, this is the Castles of Burgundy Special Edition. Castles of Burgundy has been one of my favorite games since I first played it 5 years ago or so. This is a Stefan Feld classic. I think it was published in 2012, 2011, something like that. And it used to have one of the worst productions of all time. But regardless of that production, it was one of my favorite games, and it remains. I've probably played this game 200 times now, both tons in person and online. But Awakened Realms did a Kickstarter of a upgraded component production version of the Castle of Burgundy, and it's fabulous. It's wonderful. I love everything about it. It has a wonderful table presence, increases playability dramatically just by some of the user experience, the way the player boards are laid out, the variability in these dual layer boards and the way they made it work is fantastic. So cool. And I even have to ping it for some mediocre graphic design that they carried over from the previous version. Some of the tiles are hard to read, and that sucks, but it's still so much better than anything else that got published in 2023 that I still had to give it this award. So Castle Burgundy Special Edition, one of my favorite games, one of the best productions on a board game ever, and it deserved it.
Tim, this is a game I'm not too fond of, and I've said some things about it, but this was almost my pick for best production. Also, it is astonishing, the beauty of this production. So great pick there. I actually want to play this game with that production just because it looks so amazing. Those chunky components. I want to do it. Another game I was thinking about picking was Voidfall, but there's a lot of issues too with the product. The artwork is beautiful. The components are beautiful. Again, there's millions of the components, but they're beautiful. But then kind of putting this one away and setting it up, it missed a lot with the production there. I think they could have done it in a way like Eclipse, like here's your box, here's your box, here's your box, and now you play. So it could have been a good production, but it was a little bit frustrating production with a whole package as far as production wise. So my best production of 2023 is Robot Quest Arena.
Nice one.
You have these beautiful robots that you're playing with. Basically, this game reminds me a lot of Mario Kart or 007 Bond. You've got 4 players smashing each other up. You're going to die. You're going to respawn. You're going to go try to get some good weapons, and you're going to try to sneak up on your opponents and then smash them back. You're going until somebody gets, until all the points are gone, and then you count up all the points at the end. Whoever got the most points wins. A bonus that this game is really, really fun and a great game. It's a deck builder where it's a skirmish deck builder game. I don't know if I've played any other game like that. Great production and a great game. Robot Quest Arena.
Really nice choice. I did forget to mention my couple of runners up, though. I want to call these out really quickly. The first was Apiary, which I think is just wonderful artwork, cool components, and also almost made my biggest surprises in 2023 because I didn't expect to like it as much as I did.
Yeah.
But the second one is Expeditions, which I mentioned as my biggest disappointment. This is such a cool production. The amazing Jakob Brzezowski artwork on big, huge tiles, on beautiful cards, a huge variety of it, with a little bit of a fantasy horror setting added to this already cool production, and these great mechs. So I had to call out Expeditions, even though the game didn't hit for me. The production was top notch.
Well, both great choices by you guys. And I almost hate to say it, but in terms of a runner-up for my best production, sadly has to go to Lords of Ragnarok. I mean, that was a heck of a production, even if the game was not all I'd hoped it was going to be.
Yeah.
But great choices, guys.
All right, cool. So we're going to get to the top game here in a minute, the best published game of 2023. But before we do, we're going to look back a year and look back at the games that we picked as our best published game of 2022 when we did this same awards episode 1 year ago. So last year, we all picked the same game as the best game of 2022. and I want to hear what you guys think about it. That game was Wonderland's War. So, how have you guys gotten this played more? Are you still enjoying it? Do you still think it deserved that acclaim that we gave it last year?
Yeah, I've played this a couple times without you guys, and we've all played it a couple times, and I've had just as much fun every time that I've played it. I think that all the things that were great about it stay great about it and haven't gotten old for me yet. It's always the game that gets everybody standing up around the table cheering for, whoever it is they're trying to get to win in a given battle, and whoever they bet on. The bag building is just an awesome way to do the combat in this game. So many great things, the art, all that. A great choice. I'm still glad that it was the game that I picked for best game of 2022.
Well, I totally agree. I think I've played this 10 times since we did these awards last year, and I've enjoyed every single play. Still creates tons of fun for me. They just so they had done a Kickstarter about a year and a half ago for a little mini expansion, as well as replacing a couple of the player boards that were supposed to be overpowered. I hate when people tell me something's overpowered because I think about it, and if I hadn't known that, it never would have occurred to me. But anyway, they updated a couple of the player boards and a couple other little component upgrades and stuff. So I haven't had a chance to play with the new expansion or player boards yet, but I did. This was the first game I painted, so I have now painted all 5 of the main characters in the game. Haven't gotten to the Wonderlandians yet, but I'm pretty happy with how they turn out. And I got to play it once since I've finished painting them, and I thought it added some fun flair to the characters. So Wonderland's War still a huge hit for me, and I think it was deserving for our award last year.
That's very cool about getting those pieces painted, Tim. Well done. Yeah, I'm still having fun playing this one. I played this one with Sarah at 2, and I like that 2-player variant. A lot of fun playing that one. You're forging the Dickens out of everything. So that's pretty fun. And tried this one for my birthday with another couple, not as seasoned gamers, very seasoned card gamers, but they had a little trouble adjusting to this one, coming from a lot of trick-taking games. They really enjoyed Cat in the Box, but this one was a bit more of a struggle for them. So I think that falls a lot on me being a horrible teacher of games. So might try this one again with them, or might try something else with them. But I'm still having a lot of fun playing Wonderland's War. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let's jump right into our best published game of 2023. The game that you think was the best game that was just released this last year and deserves all the credit.
So considering the fact that my best new to me game was also a 2023 game, I want to explain how I got to my choice here, because this, of course, is also a 2023 game. Really what I did was I had 2 games, and I could not decide between the 2 of them which one was the best game of the year. And they both could have been either the best new to me game, or they both could have been the best game of 2023. So I don't even want to say runner up. They were so close to tied. So what I said was the tiebreaker for me in my own decision process was which one has brought me more joy. So first, let me actually tell you what the game was, and then I'll explain why it brought me so much joy. My number 1 game of 2023 is Robot Quest Arena.
Nice.
Designed by Rob Doherty, CJ Moynihan, and Paul Waite, and published by Wise Wizard Games. A great companion to Distilled. 2 great 2023 games, but between the 2, Robot Quest Arena has just brought me so much fun and so much joy, because unlike Distilled, this is a lightish weight game that I can get on the table almost any time, probably more than any other game that I've bought before. I have gotten this one to the table a bunch of times, probably a dozen times since I got it delivered from Kickstarter just a few months ago. My son loves playing it. I've played it with you guys. I've played it with friends, and everybody has a great time with this game. It's easy to set up. It's quick. It's a chunky deck builder. So it's got some it looks like a fun kids game, but it is an actual real grown-up deck building game with some real fun skirmish stuff happening. There's a huge selection of cards. If you get the little mini expansions that come with some of the different characters, like I bought a couple of the expansion characters. And by the time you get done with all that, you've probably got, I don't know, it feels like a couple hundred cards in your deck, which have all different kinds of benefits, all different kinds of effects. And it's almost like having all kinds of the expansion cards from Star Realms built into one, the base level of a game, plus a couple of very, very mini expansions. This game has made me so happy. And in particular, it's a game that makes me happy because my family likes to play it with me, and that is always a big winner. So a hard choice to make between Distilled and Robot Quest, but I'm going to have to give that little tiny nudge to Robot Quest because of how fun it is and how easy it is to get it to the table.
Nice pick, Chris. In a game I only got to play the one time with you guys, had a blast with, but I've been thinking about it a lot, and I might pick this one up at some point because I think it's fun. I think it's going to be approachable. You could get this played with anybody, and like Adam mentioned earlier, what an awesome production for it too.
Yeah, Chris, I'm with you. Great pick. A lot of fun playing this one. Thank you so much for introducing it to me.
Well, the game that I picked for best published game of 2023 was a pretty easy pick. And as I mentioned, there was a lot of great games published in 2023. So many games that I couldn't even mention all of them in the awards or even as runners up in these games, in these lists today. I played a lot of wonderful games that were published last year. Nucleum was my favorite game published last year. And I think the game that is going to stick with me and be a game that I think I'm going to love forever. This game has often gotten compared to Brass Birmingham, and it's gotten compared to Barrage a lot. And while I think both of those are smart designs and good games, this one is actually fun. And that's really important. I have fun every turn of this game. It is a little weighty. I've had to teach it a couple times, and there is a bit to teach with it here, but it pays off. And once people understand the basic actions, you can get into it. You're building these routes, you're building up this infrastructure, trying to energize these buildings. But you also have these wonderful little goals that you're hitting all the time and getting bonuses all the time. And just so many fun things that are happening in this game every single time you take a turn. It's also colorful. It looks cool on the table. It's got a neat production. So I'm loving Nucleum. I've had a few plays of it at this point and have enjoyed every one. And they've all played out very differently. So I feel like this is going to be one of those games that even though the game itself doesn't have drastic variability, there are things that are variable in it, but I think just the playing the other players and how your route's building up and how you kind of go after different strategies is going to change every game. And I think it's a fantastic design.
Tim, what a great pick with Nucleum here. I really like how your little action tiles are those dominoes, and there's a little opportunity cost. Are you going to hold on to that very good action tile, or are you going to use it for this awesome rail placement out there on the board and give it up for the rest of the game? I think that was pretty neat. And then how you have to do your actions across your player board to meet the threshold of that income going down. I thought that was another fun choice. Two of those things that I haven't seen. I've seen some similar stuff to them, but Nucleum does them in a very cool way that I really enjoyed. Great pick, Tim.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing this one again. I'm hoping you're going to bring it to our next con.
For sure. Yeah, I definitely will. I had a couple runners up I wanted to mention really quickly. One is Sea Salt and Paper. Now, this was officially published in Europe in 2022, but I think it's just recently been published in the United States. So I'm going to count it here. I first got introduced to it on Board Game Arena, played a couple of games with you guys, with my brother, I think, and I had fun with it. So I got somebody to ship this to me from Canada before it was published in the US. And this is easily my most played. We're going to be talking a little bit here about our most played games of last year. This is my most played physical game because I've played this game with everybody. My wife, my daughter love it. We play it all the time. It's like the go-to. You got 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You want to knock something out kind of brainless. This is fun. This is the filler game for every game night. Everybody has fun playing with it. Serious gamers, casual gamers. Sea Salt and Paper, what a smart design by Bruno Catala. And I'm loving it. This will be played a long time. The other one I wanted to mention really quick was Dune Imperium Uprising, which is a standalone expansion. So it's officially an expansion, but wow, they took one of my favorite games and somehow managed to make it better all in one box. I've played my game of Dune Imperium with the expansion since then, and I don't regret them. I think they're fun. I think there's a lot of variety in that box. But I think Dune Imperium Uprising, you want just the best streamlined experience in one box. Just pick this one up. Really great design. I still don't know that it was a smart business decision for them to kind of re-implement this game that's only been out for a few years, but it's really cool.
Those are all great picks, Tim, but none as good as my pick for best game of 2023. And that is Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory. Chris scoffing over there. I don't know why. This game, more than any other, has just an amazing blend of theme and mechanics. You can't take an action without going into the vernacular and the vocabulary and the words of socio-political economic systems. And I think that's masterful. Right now, I have it set up on my table over here. I want to learn all 4 factions. I have them all set up. I'm going to just go through it methodically, enjoyably. This is a game where I know I got the setup done. It's laid out. There's one rule book, and there's not like 10 rule books and an appendix and an addendum and a subsection titled 2. Go look up this and this other book that you have to look at on the internet. No, it's all right there in one book with great pictures. This is how you set up. This is what you do. You turn to the next page. Now you're ready to play. All you have to do is play a card and do what it says once you get there. So that's the bulk of this game. Play a card, do what it says. The board echoes all of these. The ramifications of playing that card are tracked on this beautiful board that shows all this information, and you get to learn these systems, these very complex systems, all through the enjoyment of this card game. Another thing, I have the physical production here. It is excellent. I almost wanted to pick it for best production of 2023 until I remembered Robot Quest Arena. But everything is a high quality material. The rule books are like this linen finish, almost like the Stonemaier rule books. The little characters, the wooden characters, I don't want to say the M word, but they have such detail. There's male and female. The males are in the skilled workers, or the working class workers are in these little suits, and some of them have little mustaches. The female ones are in these little power suits. Working class guys are in these overalls and little hard hats. So just the details of the production are outstanding as well. I know it's a bit subjective, but the layout and the explanation from the rulebook, they just all make sense and they fall into place, at least as much as they should, until you discover, I don't know about this. I'm going to play this card. What does that mean? Oh, it means, for instance, like government subsidies. What the heck does that mean? I don't know. I'm going to play the card, and it means I get to buy some stuff from the state for cheap, and then I get to apply that right away. So it teaches you as you're playing the game. So much fantastic to say about Hegemony, Lead Your Class to Victory, my best game published in 2023.
Now, before Chris jumps in here and disagrees with you on how straightforward this game is, I'm on your team here, Adam. But my question is this the game you're going to teach to your trick-taking friends instead of Wonderland's War? Is this the one that's going to take that spot?
That's not going to happen, Tim. So I know Sarah wants to play this one with me. My dad took a peek at it. He was just here. He said, "Wow, what is this?" I don't know. We'll see. There's a chance, all you got to do is get them to play a few cards here and there, and they'll be hooked, I think. And then the voting, I didn't even talk about the voting thing. I don't know. There's a lot of fun to be had in this game, but we'll see. I'm going to have to work them up to this one. Not right away. It's not going to be the one that comes up next, Tim.
This game is definitely more fun than your average poli-sci textbook. And I can't think of a better way to spend 15 hours.
I'll take that endorsement, Chris. That's a riling endorsement.
All right. Well, that was the awards for 2023, but let's take a look and see what we've actually been getting played. So I want you guys to tell me what your most played game of 2023 is. And I'm curious how you know that. Are you guys still tracking games? Where do you track them? How do you keep up with this info?
I do track. I track all my plays except for a few like really slight games, like my games of Star Realms. I don't really track. I mean, the app tracks them for me, but I'm not really paying that much attention to it. And there's a couple of games on BGA, like I play Lucky Numbers, and I don't track all my plays of that. But everything else I do track. And there's actually not that much difference between this year's list and last year's list, which I guess means at least consistent. But there are a couple little differences, so I'll just give you my top few most play games. Last year, it was Through the Ages, followed by Barrage, followed by Tapestry. This year, it's actually Azul, with 65 plays of Azul this year. And I play Azul with everybody. I play it with my family. I play it with you guys. I play it with Adam in particular, who always kills me. And I play it on BGA with online randos and always have a great time. And I think the reason I played it so much this year is just because I've really tried to get my ELO up, and I'm now over 300, which I'm very proud of, even though I still feel like I don't win as often as I should. My number 2 is Through the Ages, which I have played 56 times. And that one, as with before, I love playing this game on that amazing app that I have on my iPad, and that makes it so easy to play this big, heavy game. Number 3 is Tapestry with 52 plays, right there on the tail of TTA. Honestly, if there was as good an app for that as there was for TTA, I'd probably be playing that game even more often. But I play a lot on BGA, so that's one that I play very frequently. But the new addition that's most interesting to me is my fourth most played game, which is Obsession with 44 plays. I have become obsessed with Obsession. I play this game on constant rotation on BGA and have so much fun with it. This is one that I actually feared for a while I was going to get tired of, but now that I've started playing it more frequently and gotten some of the finer points of the strategy, and now especially because you can play the upstairs downstairs expansion on BGA, it's really opened up a lot of new territory, and I'm just constant rotation with this game. So much fun. But those are my top four.
Nice. So I stopped tracking plays this last year back in March, and it was right when we did our BGHTCon spring conference in Sedona. And it's just like I got to the end of the weekend, realized I hadn't tracked anything, and it was going to be a half hour of me trying to remember and put everything in. So I stopped tracking at that point. But I kind of regret it because it does make these types of lists and conversations a little harder. I'm sure I missed a couple games that I just didn't have tracked to mention them. So I might start tracking again, but I think if I do, I'm going to leave BGA plays off, or I'll let BGA just kind of sync up to board game stats or something like that. So Board Game Arena keeps track of all my plays. And I know that this is accurate as my most played game of this year. The game that I played the most was Ark Nova with 96 plays of Ark Nova. 94 of them on Board Game Arena, which is clearly indicated here, 2 in person with the expansion. So I've only played it a couple times in person. This is a hard game to get to the table. In some ways, it's almost not as good on the table as it is on Board Game Arena, just because it does track everything for you. But I did have some fun plays with it. If my wife was into this game of something of this weight, we'd get a lot more plays of it. But as is, I'm enjoying playing it on Board Game Arena. I have a constant running game with a couple listeners, with my brother, with Chris occasionally. And so just tons of plays with Ark Nova, still loving it. Fantastic game. And in fact, in 2021, I said this was the best published game of 2021 after only one play of it. And clearly I was right on that based on my plays. My next 2 most plays tracked on Board Game Arena, which are probably pretty accurate to my most plays overall. Number 1 is Azul at 70 plays. I don't even like Azul that much. Like, Azul's a great game, but my brother and his one friend just like, we had a constant game run and they take like a day to finish. And so we just played a ton of Azul this year. And then the other one, which I was kind of surprised by, that's up here, is Can't Stop at 48 games. I love Can't Stop. It goes quick. I just didn't realize I'd played it that much. But I do know that I'm pretty sure I've played Sea Salt and Paper more than 48 times this year. So if I had tracked, I think I'd have at least one game that beat that one out. But anyway, Ark Nova, my most played game of 2023.
Well, my most played games, I tracked largely through a Board Game Arena. I have Board Game Stats also, and that syncs up to Board Game Arena. So you can import those over and it'll throw them all in there. So my most played game was Azul at, any guesses?
500.
150.
2,174 games of Azul.
What? In 1 year? That's not lifetime plays multiplied by 5?
I've gone off the deep end with Azul. I really love this game. It's kind of my therapeutic relaxing. In the morning, I'll come have my coffee or tea and lots of times sit up and get, 5 or 6 games in. So, they play in about 10 minutes on Board Game Arena. So I'll just kind of zone out for a while playing some Azul. I love it. I love this game. It's a lot, right? It's kind of crazy. Maybe I need to slow down as well. Next up is a tie with Barrage, 63 plays. I don't know how I got that many in. I think I did a few tournaments on Board Game Arena and then played a few games of this one with Chris, a bunch of games, and then with the whole group played a few of these ones, but really loving Barrage still. And then Board Game Arena is a great way to play and crank through games pretty quickly. Can't Stop, 63 games of those. Those are quick. A lot of Steve and Tim and Chris with those ones. Through the Ages, I guessed about 40. I couldn't find if the app tracks this one or Chris, but Chris tracks this one. And most of my plays, all of my plays are with Chris. And I don't know if Chris has plays with anybody else, but so Chris has 56. So I'm at or below 56, depending on how many of those plays Chris had with me. And then below that is Beyond the Sun with 29 plays. And that, again, is with mostly Tim, Chris, and Steve. But then Chris has been not a biggest fan. So Sarah has taken Chris's spot in a few of those games. I had a lot of fun playing that one.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to say that since you guys are mentioning apps, I think if we have to be honest, Chris, then Star Realms has got to be our most played game. What do you have a count on how many games of Star Realms you and I have played? You probably played a lot more than I have even, but you and I must have played.
Yeah, I don't have it broken down by year, but just as a frame of reference, you and I have played about 2,600 games together. And I just checked my all-time plays on the Star Realms app, and it's just under 12,000.
That's funny. So Adam, lifetime, Chris and I have just played about as much Star Realms as he played Azul just in this year.
That's crazy, because Star Realms, if you're playing straight, that's like a 10-minute game. Azul is a little crunchier than that.
Azul's like 10 minutes.
That's funny.
Really impressed, Adam.
And I just wanted to mention, Chris, because you said if there was a Tapestry app, you'd probably play that more. But there is one in development. I know it's been going on for a long time. They had hired a developer who ended up like not being able to finish it, so someone else took it over, and they're publishing regular updates on it. But I am looking forward to that. I love Tapestry. I'd be happy to bust that one out when I do play app games, which isn't too often.
Nice,
cool. Well, that was last year's games. Now we're going to talk about one last topic here, which we do every year, and that is our board game revelations. Another year of gaming, another year in this hobby, another year making this podcast. What have you learned about yourself, about board games and your life?
Wow. Board games, life. Board games are life. Life is a board game. I don't know. Last year, I said that my revelation was being more discriminating about my collection, and that has continued. I've actually gotten even more discriminating. I've almost shut down buying games until I start getting rid of some of my older ones. So that is actually kind of continued on that path. But then interestingly, my big revelation from this year is almost the opposite conceptually, and that is being more open-minded about games. This is no surprise. I've talked about this a bunch on the show about how when I first started, I kind of took on an identity of how I liked games. And I liked big story-driven games with giant productions and lots of combat and player interaction. And over the past couple of years, and really this last year, I have, I think, broadened my repertoire a lot. And probably most importantly, I've gone out there looking for things that are different than what I might otherwise have played. I'm much more open-minded when somebody says, hey, a new Reiner Knizia game or a trick-taking game or something that I might not otherwise have liked, or a heavy-duty resource management game. I go into it, maybe doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to enjoy every single game that I play, but I go into it with a spirit of exploration and curiosity rather than going into it with an attitude, which is what I used to do a little bit before. So I think it's been a positive change, and it's really broadened my horizons a lot.
Yeah, I've loved seeing this change in you, Chris, too. I mean, not that I want you bringing a lot more Reiner Knizia games to the table, although I like Reiner Knizia just fine. But I do like that you're opening your mind, you're exploring things, you're finding some love for things that weren't exciting to you before. And in some cases, they've been some of my favorite games. So it's been really fun to enjoy those with you and explore them with you. For me, my board game revelation, I may have talked about this in the past, but I'm really feeling it lately. And it's kind of two-part. Number one is I don't care about winning at all. Like I have no emotional attachment to the win anymore. I still play my hardest. I try my best, but I just have fun playing and exploring board games. They're just so much fun. Dig in, try to put together strategies. I played 2 games with a group of friends yesterday. We played Architects of the West Kingdom and then Nidavellir in person, 2 4-player games. And these are both games where the scoring is kind of hidden until you tally them up on the score sheets at the end of the game and put it all together. And both of them, I could care less that I didn't do well. I think I lost both of them. Took 4th place in both of them. And I didn't care. I was excited when other people were excited about their wins, but it just doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm just still having fun playing the games and trying my best, but it's so fun to be free of the care, the feeling of shame if I did poorly, or, being disappointed if I felt like somebody got lucky. Who cares? I just am having fun playing games. So that's part one. Part two is the thing that is much more important to me is just having fun. We talked about fun a couple weeks ago on one of our polls, but I've been thinking about that a lot as I've been going through gameplays the last few weeks. And fun can come from a few different places. Usually it's the people I'm playing with. And if there's a fun group of people there, even if the game's mediocre, even if the game mechanisms aren't fun for me, I'm still going to have fun if you guys are making me laugh, if we're joking with each other, if we're trash talking. And I've seen that with you guys when we played Turing Machine a couple of weeks ago. I've seen it with a couple of my friends. They've introduced me some games that were just not fun mechanisms for me, but I still had a blast at game night. So that's part of it. But then there are some games that just make me happy. I think it is these little bonuses, these dopamine hits, these little triggers. Those things still make me happy. So when I'm playing those games that I just feel like I'm putting these little puzzles together, they make me happy too. So either way, as long as I'm having fun, I'm enjoying this hobby. Don't care if I'm winning. But I do want to have fun because there are some games and there are some people that I've played with that are not fun. And I'll avoid those wherever I can.
Well, for what it's worth, I think one of the most enjoyable things about playing games is playing with somebody who plays for the love of it and not for the win. I mean, we're all a little bit competitive, but man, that makes for a much more fun gaming experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more about the win. I don't like myself when I'm just overly competitive going for the win. I'm glad we got rid of the point system at the cons. It opened the door for exploration and trying new wacky stuff and not caring if the game lands or not. I think it's been a good change. I love hanging out with you guys, talking smack, playing a bad game, even if it's still fun. Even the bad game, even Lords of Ragnarok, I still had a fun time sitting around the table with you guys.
Disagree on that one.
Trying that game out and seeing what Tim shaking said, no, I did not have fun.
I wish I could agree with that, Adam.
I still had fun, you guys. I thought it was fun, checking out something new and seeing what didn't work about it. That was fun for me. And a good reminder, Chris, about being open-minded too. I think that's a great lesson to come to board game night with. An open mind. Try something new and don't be I don't want to say negative Nancy because there's a lot of great Nancys out there, but be open to the game, whether it's not your bag or not. And I need to remind myself to do that too. My revelations, I broke this down into revelations and reinforcements. And this happened with Voidfall. If a game doesn't grab me right away, it's tough to go back to it. I need something that gets me going and I can just get into it right away. Fractal, I could just set it up. The rulebook was light. I had it set up and I was going and doing cool stuff. Turn one, it was amazing. I had a lot of fun doing that. Like I said, I don't mind setting it up, but if it takes forever to get to the game, the rulebook is confusing, I'm turning pages, looking around, how do I take a turn? What do I do? How is this going to be fun? I feel like my time is getting wasted. Time's very much a premium for me at this point in my life. So maybe when I have a little one, my old man, and I don't care about anything, and the kids are out of the house, then I can take all the time I want and go through these games and sit around and have a lot more time to dedicate to them. But right now, times are premium. Don't waste my time getting into a game, please. Those are my board game revelations and reinforcements. If you guys don't mind, I have a couple other questions for you before we sign off here.
They better be questions we can answer.
Well, they're a little on the spotty, but we've done this before and we kind of nailed it. Any games from 2023 that you think will make the top 20 on Board Game Geek?
I think, there were so many good ones. I think Nucleum has a shot. I don't know. I'm not hearing a ton of chatter about it, but I feel like it's a strong enough game and seems to be well rated. I think Apiary actually has a spot, but I think it's going to fall a little short, but I think it has a spot. Other than that, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is kind of hitting that hard across the board.
I have to, not to toot my own horn here with, my picks, but Distilled actually started on the BGG list really high. In fact, it's right around the same place as Nucleum. Nucleum is sitting right now at 483.
Chris, there is no way that Distilled is ever going to make the top 20. It's a great game. I think it's unlikely to make the top 100, but top 20 there's no chance.
So it's already rated more highly than Nucleum. It's 481.
Yeah, but it came out quite a bit before Nucleum, just stuff. Yeah. And I might be way off on Nucleum there.
We'll see.
My picks, I think Nucleum has a chance. I think Nucleum has a good chance. I think Hegemony has a good chance. So right now, the highest games from 2023, I did some research, guys. Hegemony is 122. Darwin's Journey, which none of us talked about, is 176. Earth is 192. Age of Innovation is 282. And Star Wars, the deck building game, is 292.
Yeah, I think we got some possible top 100s there. And Hegemony, I would say, is the most likely out of that list to make top 100. I don't see Star Wars deck building getting up to top 20. Was Frosthaven on that list, or is it not in?
No.
Is it not considered a 2023 release?
Good question. Let me check.
Yeah, I still think Frosthaven has a shot, although it's up in the top 70, top 60, top 50 at this point. So it's moving up there. I think it may stumble a little bit before it makes top 20.
It says 2022 for Frosthaven.
Oh, okay. Maybe, I just didn't get mine until 2023, I think. So interesting.
And I'm glad that you mentioned Darwin's Journey. That was actually one of the games where if there wasn't so many great games this year that I could have mentioned, I would have mentioned Darwin's Journey. I think it's a better game than Nucleum. I enjoy it more. But I think that one maybe has the most realistic chance, in my opinion, of the ones that we've mentioned.
A couple other notes. I was doing some research through the Board Game Geek games of 2023. There's a bunch that I haven't played. The White Castle, Sky Team. A weird one is The Witcher, The Old World. That's currently at 450 on Board Game Geek with 4,600 ratings. So it has some momentum, but I have no desire to try this one. Any thoughts on The Witcher?
There's no way that's making it up there. That was a Kickstarter. Everybody who put all this money into this Kickstarter and loves the theme, and that's why they backed it, is going to rate it high. So that's going to be one of these big minis heavy Kickstarters that it's going to go okay, but it's never going to get enough votes to get up there in the top 100, I think. What was the other one you just mentioned?
A few more that I'm here to hype with. So there's the White Castle, Sky Team, Forest Shuffle, Thunder Road Vendetta. I'd like to try Thunder Road Vendetta.
Yeah, that one I want to try.
Kutna Hora, which Tim, you've tried. Stationfall, which seems like it has a lot of rules, but seems pretty wacky and maybe interesting. Zuvide, a Reiner Knizia one. Nar, and Evacuation are all games I haven't played that interest me a little bit.
Yeah, I think Evacuation's strong. As I mentioned before, I don't think it's even one of Vladimir Suchi's best games, and so I don't think it's likely to get up there with like Underwater Cities. Kutna Hora is never going to make top 100. I can guarantee you that. White Castle, I think, actually has a shot at it. It's a low price game for a pretty awesome production and pretty solid gameplay. So I could see that making top 100, but it won't get to top 20.
Okay, a couple other notes of interest. I thought this was fascinating stuff. You mentioned Dune Imperium, which is a weird one. Dune Imperium Uprising, right? Which is a weird one.
Yeah.
I could see that one skyrocketing to the top 20.
Yeah.
It's currently,
I think you're right,
$6.99. It has 1,600 votes. And its average rating, which is a big factor, and how high it gets, is currently at 8.7, which is huge.
Where does OG Dune Imperium sit on the list?
It's in the top 10?
15 or something like this. Is it top 10
It's in top
now?
20 for sure.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's hard to believe that OG Dune Imperium would be in the top 10 and that the improved version wouldn't make it as high, I guess.
I think the difference, or at least why it may not rise as quick, is like a lot of people, because they already own Dune Imperium, are not going to go and buy Dune Imperium Uprising. Just like me, I'm not going to buy Dune Imperium Uprising. And if we hadn't reviewed it, I probably wouldn't have played it to give it a rating. So I think it's just not going to get the play that, at least not for a long time. Maybe eventually enough people are going to discover it, or new people are going to discover that instead of Dune Imperium, and then it'll rise.
Fair enough.
What else? A game that's getting a lot of hype right now that we did play and haven't talked about it once since is Bloodstones, a Martin Wallace kind of domino war game. It has a 7.92 average with only 218 ratings. I don't know why it's number one on the hotness for a few days.
It just delivered on Kickstarter.
Okay.
That's why people are just getting it, and it looks cool on the table. My friend Mel just was at a game day, and she's like, "Oh, I saw this Bloodstones. It looked amazing on the table." Yeah, great production. It's one of the few games in my collection that I rated a 4, that I've played that I rated a 4 on BGG. So I don't think it's that good of a game. I mean, personally, I didn't have fun with it. You can listen to our review on that. But I think it's only in the hotness because people are just getting it delivered from Kickstarter.
And my most obscure game from 2023 that I own is Envelopes of Cash, which I think is a fantastic game. It's sitting at 11,311 on Board Game Geek. This is a fun game. I'm doing a tournament right now organized by the designer, and there's some really good competition, scores up around 200, tight games every time. So that's been fun to see that game played at a high level, even though its relatives remain relatively obscure.
Did you get this? You ended up late backing this. Did you end up getting your physical
it's
copy
here.
of it?
Yep. It's
nice.
It's here.
Nice.
It's cool.
That's cool. This is one I wouldn't mind if you want to bring to our next con. I'd kind of like to play with the physical version of it, because I played a little bit online without really learning the rules in advance, but it seems like it's got some clever stuff going on. So I'd try this one.
I'd love to. It's fun, light rules overhead, easy to get into, and good interaction.
Cool.
Some other numbers. There's less than 50 games from 2023 with over 1,000 ratings. But if you go to 100 ratings or more, it goes up to 440, and about 440. And then if you just go all games from 2023, there's 48 pages of 50 games a piece, about 2,400 games listed on Board Game Geek from 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Remember how we talked about, are there too many games getting published?
Yeah.
Chris was arguing that there are, and this is why there are. And it's like, again, who can police that? But the reality is that most of these games aren't really getting played. Nobody knows about them. Somebody's put their heart and soul into some of these games. and published them and created artwork for them and probably lost money and nobody even knows about them, or very few people do. And that's just kind of sad. You're kind of losing all this artwork to just the mass of stuff that's coming in. And when I say artwork, I don't mean just the art. I mean, like, the games themselves are a work of art in some cases. And some of them will just never get discovered because there's too much chaff to talk around.
So put that in a little bit of perspective. Only about a sixth of all the games from 2023 have 100 or more ratings on Board Game Geek.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
That tells you something.
Yeah. And then Bloodstones is in the hotness right now. So that's, go figure.
Right. That's the end of my number journey. I'll cut it off there for board games from 2023.
The 2023 spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Nicely done, Adam.
Chris, any final thoughts from you before we wrap up today?
I just hope that 2024 is as good as 2023.
Yeah, I do too. And considering the first published game in 2024 that I got a chance to play was Wormspan, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. It's off to a good start so far. We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks for another great year of games and podcasting, guys. Until next week, take care, everybody.
Good night, all.
Bye-bye.